I took the last 2 weeks to travel and attend XBIZ Amsterdam, the TES Prague conference, and the AWS Ibiza Summit. The things that I found to be interesting were Welcome back to On the Horizon. This is MelRose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode. Assembly 4 are a collective of sex workers and technologists working to bring the overall cost of advertising down for sex workers through their ad platform Tris.link, educate clients through the Good Client Guide, and much more. Assembly 4 caters to all genders and demographics and raises funds for organizations to fight for sex workers' rights, the decriminalization of sex work, and against exploitation in the sex industry. Learn more at the website assembly4.com for the word, not the number. Hello, and welcome everyone to SWCEO's podcast. We are going to be taking questions and comments and suggestions right from the top of it. You can get free consulting or ask anything about challenges or obstacles you're facing in your business, and the people and creators listening in can kind of take that advice and apply it for themselves if it is in fact applicable. I did want to take a moment to thank Phoebe May 2, who tweeted us this amazing testimonial. It says, if y'all haven't already, please go follow at SWCEO. She is out here blessing us with all this free information. And once you put it into practice, I promise you'll see results. This is the sweetest endorsement. I really appreciate you, Phoebe. That's literally all I could ask for, is that the information we put out, you guys are listening and applying it, and that you're seeing the results with it. So that makes my day. Thank you so much. And I guess we're just going to get right into it. Today, this space is going to be entirely conversational again. So what I want is for you guys to have this entire time to ask me questions, get some free consulting, suggest resources that might be working for you. I would love to just kind of incorporate these more often. So I'm trying to start doing them, 2 conversational spaces a month and then 2 more lecture-based educational ones, just to see how those perform and if those bring you guys more value. Ultimately, my only goal is to provide as much value as possible, because without the feedback and the turnout that we've been having, I wouldn't know what you guys need. So this has been really great so far, and I'm just trying to continue to keep doing it. I am just going to take some of what I've been doing over the past week and sharing that information with y'all until someone wants to come up and request to speak. So as a bunch of you guys are aware, I took the last 2 weeks, about 15 days, to travel through all of Europe, it seems like, and attend XBIZ Amsterdam, as well as the TES Prague conference and the AWS Ibiza Summit. And I kind of wanted to share my experiences with you because from what I've experienced over the course of the last 2 weeks, it was really profound. And I know a lot of the creators listening in and attending these spaces don't have the opportunity to attend conferences overseas because it's extremely expensive and cost prohibitive. And also not everyone is privileged to be able to travel in that way. So I did want to kind of recite and share some of the things that I took away from the conferences over the last 2 weeks and share it with you so that if maybe you can use some of this information and apply it to your business, or even kind of game plan how you can get to these kinds of conferences in the future, I do think it was widely beneficial. So the first thing I want to discuss is kind of my experience at XBIZ Amsterdam. I've never done an XBIZ in Europe. I've never done an XBIZ outside of the LA or Miami conferences. And upon arriving there, my first impression was how much bigger this conference was than the US XBIZ conferences. There were way more creators in attendance at XBIZ Amsterdam than I was used to seeing in the US-based conferences. And also there was just a lot of different information available. You also got exposure to different platforms that aren't US-based platforms. So that was kind of insightful for me as well. And the biggest takeaway was how much more creators are able to attend the EU XBIZ conferences in comparison to the American ones. And I don't know why this had never crossed my mind before, because in reality, it's very difficult for anyone outside the US to travel to the US, right? Like most countries require a proper visa to come to the US, not just having a passport. So that, by and large, is inherently a huge barrier to entry for a lot of EU creators to even attend the US conferences. And I never thought about that until I had attended XBIZ Amsterdam. because when I was there, I was exposed to so many more creators than I'm usually exposed to. And also when I was talking to these creators and asking them why they don't attend the US conferences, this was something that kept coming up, and it wasn't something that I had inherently thought about. Obviously, I'm privileged to be an American citizen holding an American passport. I can pretty much travel most places wherever I'd like without having to worry about a visa or going through an embassy or anything like that. So this was kind of a big wake-up call for me that as a primarily American creator, I am potentially missing out on a lot of opportunity and collabs with EU creators who just aren't going to be able to make it to the US because of that major barrier to entry. So that was a big wake-up call for me when I was attending XBIZ Amsterdam, and I wanted to highlight it because there's a lot of creators outside of the American market that we could be collaborating with, and we could be making content with, and we could be gaining access to their audience and their fan bases and exchanging theirs for ours, which is very valuable in terms of leverage. Everyone wants to access a US fan base in the US market because they tend to spend, high amounts of money in US dollars, which goes pretty far. But we could be collaborating with creators outside of America and outside the US, and it could be extremely beneficial for us as well, which is something that I never took the time to think about or really process. And that was a huge, huge, kind of profound moment for me at XBIZ Amsterdam.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends, because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance.
So that was the biggest takeaway from XBIZ Amsterdam. Also, not just the ability to collaborate and the ability to realize how much more creators I had access to by going to an EU summit, but aside from that, kind of getting the exposure to the EU platforms and EU businesses that were in attendance. There was a lot of companies that I had never heard of before that I got to get acquainted with. And there was a lot of insight about technology and compliance that was different from in the US. So for example, there was AI panels and panels around technologies that when I was attending, I heard magnificent conversations around not just the technology itself, like AI, for example, but the compliance piece that accompanied it. Because the way that these technologies are regulated in EU is so different than the way that they're regulated in America. So kind of getting that perspective by attending an EU conference, that's another thing I wouldn't have had access to if I hadn't attended XBIZ Amsterdam. So those were the big takeaways from XBIZ Amsterdam. And then I want to move on to the TES Prague conference that I went to. So the next two conferences aren't really for creators. I was only in attendance because I was there promoting my company, SWCEO, and my other company. Creators don't typically attend these because they're not creator-based, not creator-focused. They're more for, traffic partners and affiliates. But because now I have these companies that I'm trying to build, it made sense for me to attend. And there are takeaways that I think creators could benefit learning from, even though I don't necessarily think it's worth your time to attend these two conferences at this stage in the average creator's career, or if you don't have an actual business outside of being a creator. The things that I found to be interesting were TES and AW are very much kind of traffic and affiliate summits. And what you can gain from them is traffic partners, which is something that all creators struggle with, which is a very interesting kind of takeaway. And then affiliates. The average creator, I would say, doesn't understand or doesn't work a lot or oftentimes with affiliates. However, affiliates can be a massive piece of your business. So if you can find a way to contact or talk to affiliates or reach affiliates, you actually can gain the advantage of working alongside them. So what does this mean? So at TES and in AW summits, I met major traffic partners. So these are people pushing traffic to typically agencies or to platforms in the adult industry. But because I was there and I was able to speak to them from the perspective of my company and also as a creator, I have potential leads on traffic partners for myself. So although I'm not gonna mention who they are or what they are, because I want to test everything before I ever bring it forward to my audience here and to other creators. I want to make sure they're legitimate. It was just interesting because I would have never had access to these traffic partners if I wasn't in attendance at those conferences. Because most traffic partners would prefer to work with platforms and companies other than the creators themselves, just because it might not be as lucrative for them to work directly with creators. But that also opened my eyes to the fact that if we can find ways to make it lucrative for traffic partners to work direct with creators, then maybe there's like a market there, a business model there that would work. So that's something that I took away that I thought would be really interesting as well. And on the affiliate side, most people, like I said, don't understand how affiliates work in adult. Affiliates are just people that drive clicks or drive traffic and take a rev share or commission from doing so. Almost all adult platforms work with affiliates to drive traffic to their pay sites, platforms, companies, whatever it is, whatever their product is. But creators don't often do this in the same way. I'm working with an affiliate model now, and I'm testing their product where all of the traffic or clicks that they bring me, depending on the revenue made from those clicks, I will pay them out a commission. So this is a version of kind of like an affiliate situation. So if this works out and it becomes lucrative or it makes sense, I could see creators and independent creators working with affiliates directly in the future to do something along the lines of this for their own businesses as well. So those are kind of some of the biggest takeaways from me attending, like I said, XBIZ Amsterdam, TES Prague, and then AWSummit in Ibiza. It wasn't what I expected going into the summits. I also found that I was very comfortable at the Creator Summit and very uncomfortable at the TES, the affiliate in the EW Traffic Summit. And I think that's because I have this own, like my own kind of self-limiting belief that I'm not just more than a creator at this point, that I have these companies and that I am here to represent them. And it's uncomfortable to walk into a situation where you feel like you might be still viewed as only a creator, especially when they're not creator conferences. So even with the people that I spoke to, I was getting feedback from people in the industry saying like, a lot of people are intimidated to come up and speak to you. They know you're a creator and they're not sure about what businesses you run and they're just not sure how to start the conversations. So I had to kind of learn to come out of my shell and learn to be much more, I don't know if on the offense is the right word, but much more extroverted in going out of my way to kind of make those connections and build those relationships, which doesn't come natural to me, as most people kind of believe. So if you do ever attend a conference that isn't a creator conference, I would definitely work on that because that's a struggle for me. And I think that I could have been more effective had I had that feedback sooner, because it does feel a little bit outside your skin or outside your comfort zone to be at a conference where there are no other creators or very few other creators. So I think that that's kind of the pieces that I wanted to share from the past 2 weeks or so. Again, this is a conversational space, so if you have questions about your business or mine, please, please, please consider coming up and requesting to speak. I'm happy to consult or give whatever advice or suggestions or feedback that I can, and I'll share whatever other experiences from the conferences that are applicable. So we will wait for some of you guys to come up and speak. But yeah, ultimately, I want you guys to take over the space and get as much value out of it as humanly possible. I also should share, while we're waiting for people to request, there was a creator that I did connect with over, I believe it was more at TES Prague. This is a male creator. We're in early talks. I don't want to name him because we don't have, I guess, anything in writing or anything concrete yet. But I had a really good conversation about him coming on to discuss things further with SWCEO about offering more value from a male perspective to benefit our male creators. Because that's something I know SWCEO often falls short on, just because most of what we do right now is from my lens or creators like myself's lens, which is something I would like to correct. I just, there's only so many resources. Most of you guys know that this company is funded still on a lot of the labor coming from my own OnlyFans and my own product, my own fan sites. But this creator is really interested in working alongside and kind of building out a relationship with SWCEO that can help more creators. So I'm really hoping that out of all the conferences that come, that's one of the things that we can bring to fruition. I definitely know that that's a shortcoming on SWCEO, and I think it can be improved, especially with this person in particular. I think they'd be a huge asset. So I'm super, super looking forward to putting a meeting together with them and seeing if we can't pull that off and make it happen. I'm curious too, if any of you guys listening feel like that any of the information on SWCEO strategically could be better if we brought on more creators to incorporate. Like, I know something I'm interested in the future is working alongside more of you to kind of help educate in areas I don't know enough about. Like, there's definitely an area of like the Dom side of things that I would love to expand into with someone who's more of an expert in that space. There's definitely more on, like I said, the male perspective that we don't lend enough insight to and I can't speak to as well. But if you guys have any feedback on that, I'd be totally open to hearing that also. So feel free to come up and request. I'd love to hear you guys' take on things. We have a quiet group today. All right, well, I'm going to then start to wrap this up if we don't have any speakers. But I did want to make sure I shared everything that I kind of took away from going overseas and going to these conferences with you guys and making sure that I made that accessible in even the smallest way to our audience. So I am grateful you guys were here to even absorb that. And if there is stuff you want to come up and ask, please feel free. But if not, I am going to start wrapping this up. I actually have a meeting that I'm really excited about for SWCEO and some of the things that we're working on coming up here shortly as well. So let me go ahead and kind of wrap things. So I would love to mention that we are putting out more courses coming on our SWCEO YouTube channel. Obviously, a lot of you guys saw the recent course about re-engaging inactive fans on SextPanther. We also have one coming out around CapCut, how to edit and produce content through CapCut, which is pretty much all I use currently with my adult content. So you can expect to see those going live shortly. Again, if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube, please do so and make sure notifications are turned on so that you never miss a course. Again, our YouTube channel is youtube.com/SWCEO. Huge thank you to everyone who is subscribed to our Telegram bot. If you haven't already heard, we released a Telegram bot that essentially sends out daily content inspiration and all the captions you need for your feed, PPV-locked clip messages, clip stores, etc. They are researched to be highly trendy and desirable from what fans are currently seeking. All the captions are optimized with calls to action to increase your earning and unlock potential with each caption. We're also now incorporating fetish and dom ideas, so about half of the 30 ideas you get will also be in the fetish and dom realm as well. This way we can provide a wider variety of creator inspo to everyone all in one place. Telegram bot pushes your daily dose of inspiration to your phone around 10 CST every morning. This way you no longer have to waste your time researching, planning, or coming up with content ideas or captions. The bot takes care of all of it. Also, if you're not a Telegram user, you can also download the PDF version of our content inspo and captions right on our sexworkceo.com/shop. We recently launched a store for PDF downloads with the same content inspo and captions featured in the Telegram bot. This way, you can also use those if you're not on Telegram and put them into practice. We have additional downloads available there as well, like sales unlock scripts and sales objection scripts to help you close all of your deals. And if you want to get a taste of your scripts or what we offer without spending a dime, there is a completely free PDF download available with 15 solo content ideas that you can claim right now, no strings attached. Lastly, but most importantly, I want to emphasize that all of what we put out here on SexWorkCEO, we put out for free because we believe in this idea that the more financially successful creators are, the more resources we will have as a community to do things like lobby Congress, impact policy, organize, and more. So if you find value in the content you heard here today or in the tweets we've put out and you've engaged with, please consider sharing it to make this journey easier for your own adult creator friends. Our only ask is that you retweet our stuff so that we can help as many people as humanly possible. Thank you so much in advance. All right, guys, that's going to bring us to the end of today's space. This was a very short one. I appreciate everyone who tuned in. I'm going to have a more lectured and structured space ready for next week. I would love some of your insight on what you'd want to hear the most about, especially if I triggered any thoughts or ideas based on what I learned over in the EU conferences in this space. So feel free to tweet your suggestions. I'll put out a tweet asking for them regardless. But either way, you will see me back here for the next SexWorkCEO boardroom. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. See you soon.
It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much. Assembly 4 are a collective of sex workers and technologists working to bring the overall cost of advertising down for sex workers through their ad platform Tryst.link, educate clients through the Good Client Guide, and much more. Assembly 4 caters to all genders and demographics and raises funds for organizations to fight for sex workers' rights, the decriminalization of sex work, and against exploitation in the sex industry. Learn more at the website assembly4.com for the word, not the number.